this song to show that all the great rivers that come to this country, we have melded together and formed the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I call the song the Ganges and the Nile. Many rivers flow to this naked isle, bringing fear and pain, but also a brand new style. And of all these rivers that shape this land, two mighty ones move like a sculptor's hand. And today those hands across the land, man, they're still landscaping. And there's no doubt we can work it out, there is no escaping. But as the river flows, there are those who will change its passage. So every common man got to understand up and send a message. But put up your hand if you understand now. Come! See how we move it, watch how we groove it, see how we float in style. Oh yes, one lovely nation under a groove. The Ganges don't need the Nile. Them boys with the hidden agendas and the mind benders, they will always do their do. The various smart men and politicians, well, them could come along too, cause we moving with a power and glory. See how we float in style. Oh yes, one lovely nation heading to salvation. The Ganges don't need the Nile. Differences there will always be, so that you'll be you and I'll be me. But that's the damn thing self that makes this country sweet. Partner, bring your drum, let me start to beat. Don't mind the politics, politicians. Oh, in the politics situation. We don't jamming on them, cause we know the story. So let them fight if they want in this land of the deferred glory. Put up your hand if you understand now. See how we move it, watch how we groove it, see how we float in style. Oh yes, one lovely nation under a groove. The Ganges don't need the Nile. Them boys with the hidden agendas and the mind benders, the people don't take in front. Oh yes, the various smart men and politicians can come along if they want, cause we move it with a power of glory. See how we float in style. Oh yes, one lovely nation under a groove. The Ganges don't need the Nile. Hear me now. The river Thames, the Yangtze crew, the river Jordan and the Danube blue, the Mississippi come down to join the fun as the Orinoco walks up the Amazon. And to this Irie Trinidad, well, they all discover that this Irie Trinidad going to be their lover. And she hugged them up and said, come on, be my little sister. And life became the carnival of a brand new culture. But put up your hand if you understand now. See how we move it, watch how we groove it, see how we float in style. Oh yes, one lovely nation under a groove. The Ganges don't need the Nile. Hear me now. Them boys with the hidden agendas and the mind benders, they will always do their do. But now that we hold in hand, running through the promised land, well, Cause we moving with a power and glory. Yeah. See how we float in sky. Oh yes, one lovely nation, heading to salvation. To not feast and eat the night. Thank you very much. God bless you. Good night. Reverend Michael Rudder. They can't please everybody. Huh? Hey, Reverend Rudder. Let's do it. Thank you very much. I remember growing up under PNM and DLP, right up to PNM and UNC, and these boys can't solve out the problem yet. They can't solve out the problem yet. I personally find it's insulting. Insulting. You see, differences, there will always be. So, partner, you could be you, and I could be me. But then that's the damn thing self that makes this country sweet. Partner, bring your drum. Let me start to beat. Don't mind the politician. I mean the politicky situation. That's why we jamming on them, cause we know the story. So let them fight if they want in the stand of the people glory. Oh yeah. See how we move it, watch how we groove it. See how we float in style. One lovely nation under a groove. We got east and the night. Them boys with the hidden agendas and the mind benders, they will always do their do. Yeah. The various smart men and politicians, well, them could come along too. Cause we moving with a power and glory. See how we flow in style. Yeah. One lovely nation under a groove. In a feast and keep the night. Thank you very much. Good night. God bless you. What a nice.
The pulsating sound and the voice of the philosopher king of Calypso, King David himself, David Rudder, summoning Trinidad and Tobago and our Caribbean to a realization of our diversity. One lovely country under the sun, the Ganges, India, meets the Nile, Africa, and the Mississippi could come too, the diaspora, and the Orinoco and the Amazon, our native people, rubbing up together in this thing called Guyana, called the Caribbean. They tell us that when we speak for one side. But you can be you, and I can be me. That's what is so sweet about our Guyanese and Caribbean civilization. You are the product of that civilization. I am the product of that civilization. Africa runs in our blood and India runs in our blood. and the Orinoco and the Amazon. It is such a beautiful feeling to be a real Guyanese, not a fake Guyana, a Guyana with no roots. My Guyana has roots in the Ganges and the Nile and the Orinoco and the Mississippi and the Caribbean Sea, washing the shores from Haiti and the Bahamas in the north, right down to Trinidad and Guyana in the south. One lovely nation. Let them not tell you that to be a Guyanese, you have to stop the flow of the Nile or the flow of the Ganges. It's what makes us beautiful. The Ganges meets the Nile. I love that brother, David Michael Rudder, as I love all the Calypsonians, the bards, those who speak what we fumble to speak. Yes, it's a damn shame that them boys can't get it right. But you know what? Even the smart men and the politicians, we not leaving them behind. They're coming too in this lovely nation that we call Guyana, and by extension, the Caribbean. Good evening, and you all can tell that I'm in a lovely mood tonight. I'm in a wonderful mood tonight, as I must be, because I'm alive and I'm in my own country, smelling the air of Guyana, drinking the water, drinking our water, watching our people walk rhythmically, swaying and floating as only we can. We've been through so much that we have brought so much to the world. Our gift is in our movement. See how we float in style. To quote Brother David Rudder, beautiful as I watch Guyanese, as we navigate the weather, the May-June rains, as we navigate the expectation of another election in the air, as we watch those who take a 15-year-old, charge her for murder, making her the scapegoat for our collective failure for which she is not responsible, for which she's a victim. The Guyanese civilization that I come from and that I have tried to make better is not a civilization that charges a 15-year-old for murder. I reject that. Oh, Guyana. Oh, Guyana. Oh, Guyana. My daughter has become a shroud. I remember Mahadai Das in that beautiful poem. Oh, my grandfather, your daughter has become a shroud, paying homage to the Ganges, to the Indian in us. I am not Indian by blood, but I meet India by association. The twists and turns have brought us here. The whirlwinds continue to toss us. But every time we seem to be going down, never to come up again, we come up and we more than breathe. We survive. Good evening. Welcome to all of you. Whether you're joining us from inside of Guyana, I see my brother Albert Morgan from that beautiful part of our civilization, the Quarantine Coast, a country within a country. I remember as a little boy going to Union as part of a drama troupe from Buxton, saying poetry and acting and feeling that I was in a special place. And when I got back to Buxton, I asked, what was so special about union? And they said, the authentic Africa. The authentic Nile. Good evening, my sisters and brothers from that part. Flash Gordon, good evening. My sister Danette. Danette, I'm home. You're not home. You know, we cook up with plenty obstacles. When you coming home, Danette? All right. All right. We waiting. We waiting. Danette is a lady when you tell she the cook up is for midnight. All year's night she is cook up for we. The cook up is for midnight. Danette just done she cook up 6 o'clock. And deliver. She don't be late with a cook up at all. The folk in us. We discover ourselves in our relations and our relationships. We don't have to fight always. And even when we fight, we must fight to make it right, not to make it wrong. Those of you who join us from outside of Guyana, don't hate on me because I am home. New Jersey in the house, Brother Keith. Brother Keith. New Jersey Turnpike. You know, I lived for a long time in Washington, D.C., Maryland. And you leave at 12 o'clock to make the 3-hour ride to Brooklyn to party. And you get there at 3 o'clock and then boys in Brooklyn and wake up yet for the party. Because in them days, the party used to start at 4 o'clock. And when you surface after the party, it's past midday, Sunday. You can't say Sunday morning. After lunch. Those were the days. And when you're done rock and roll, you got to drive down the New Jersey Turnpike back to Maryland. Good evening to all of you. Good evening to all the wonderful people in Brooklyn. How about my peeps in Washington, D.C., Maryland? I'm keeping my promise to the women of Washington, D.C., Maryland who complain to me that they can't get a husband to carry out the trash between 7 o'clock and 8:30 at night because they're on to Politics 101. Well, I'm going to finish at 8:25 so they can carry out the trash at 8:30. We're going to be talking tonight to, I told you all last night, I have a surprise guest who have been meaning to bring on all the time, but she's here. And I told you all it's a she. And you know when we have first-time visitors, oh, you all got to behave. You all have to behave yourself nice. Sister Annette Ferguson is here with us. Former member of the cabinet, still a member of parliament, and still out there. She might be in David Rudder politicians. I ain't running, you know. I do the politics thing too. Although I don't call myself a politician, I say I'm a political activist. And as them boys would say, same all too dark. Don't pull ranks on we and nomenclature and words. It's politics, all of you all. Right. So we're going to talk tonight with Sister Annette. On what's happening around us. Tomorrow night, I'm giving you all early notice, Paul Slow is going to be here. Because the Madhya thing got a dimension about security. And you know, he's the man who know the security from the inside, but has the courage to speak from the outside. So he's going to be here on tomorrow night. We're going to talk about all the police and security thing there. And then the boy from my village, I know the family well, his mother and I, the boy that the capture, who they said was aiding Smalley to get away, and that they handcuff him. But this handcuff man snatch a gun and crank the gun with the handcuff. Well, I thought we were just oil drunk, but we're not just oil drunk. We also oil crazy because they think we crazy. I know the little boy. I know the boy. I know the family. I know his younger brother who's very, very close to me. He always seek me out. Ironically, Saturday night, I stopped at the gas station to get something. I was running to meet my son. And, he hailed out to me, said he wanted to talk to me Saturday night. And I told him, well, my son waiting for me. I's not always the quintessential family man. So when I get summoned by my son, say, you want to hang out with me, I got to move. So he said, all right, you're going to talk to me the next night. And I later learned that he wanted to talk to me about, that his brother was in danger. By the time the next night came around, the brother apparently was captured. And some are saying, with good reason, another murder, another extrajudicial murder. And so we're going to have Brother Paul slow here tomorrow night to walk us through that kind of thing. It's madness. It's madness. Somebody got to be mad. And when you got mad people at the top, that is pass the madness down to us at the bottom. Good evening. And we're ready. We're ready to talk tonight, as we always do. We don't, as they say, divide Guyana. The Ganges meets the Nile on a program like this. Because we are Guyana. We are Guyana too. We are Guyana. Good evening, Sister Annette Ferguson. Sister Annette, good
Yes,
evening.
a pleasant evening to you, Brother David Hines. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you clearly now. You get it right there
Okay,
now?
a pleasant evening to you. And well, yes, I'm hearing you. I just want to ensure that you're hearing me.
Yes, I am. Good.
Okay, thank
Annette,
you. A
I know
pleasant
you're a
evening
church
to
lady.
you.
I know you're a church. I know you're a church lady. I know you're a church lady. So before anything, I want you to put some blessings on us tonight because we really need God. I always say when people ask me, well, Doc, you're old time Marxist, and politics and religion. Why I say, don't ask me if I believe in God. I know God believe in me because from a little shocktail boy at Bottom Station in Buxton, running around with Danette and Denise and all the rest of them, hey, to where I am now, God got to love me, to lift me, and put me not necessarily to the mountaintop, but
Mhm,
within reach of the mountaintop. Talk to me, Annette.
mhm. Well, even before I talk to you, allow me this opportunity to thank you for having me on your program once again. And let me say a pleasant
You're breaking.
good night and are listening to us here at home or far apart. I'm breaking. You're hearing me better?
Well, you're better now. You're better now.
Okay, perhaps the internet is in and out. I don't know what
Yeah.
is
Uh-huh.
happening. But that being said, Brother Heinz, I just want to I didn't get your first question clear because it you were muzzled. So can you
I
repeat
was
your
saying that I
first
know you're a
statement?
church lady and I want you to visit the ancestors spiritually in us tonight.
Okay. I hear you. Well, Brother Heinz, indeed, I'm a believer, and a number of things are happening in our country. And truth be told, just yesterday I was at a church conference, and at the conference, you have the local pastors stating that something is amiss in this nation. There is something about our nation thus far because we're experiencing a lot of deaths, road accidents, that is. We're experiencing, we had the recent fire. That was a horrific fire last week there in the mining town of Madhya. We also have constant road accidents. So something is definitely happening in this nation. And God is saying to us, it is time we turn to Him. It is time we, as leaders, perhaps repent of our sins and put Guyana back to God. That's the only way, Brother Hines, I will see Guyana change and move in a positive direction. So the only thing that we as leaders and as a nation should do is to repent, ask God for our forgiveness, all the sins that might have been committed, and just resubmit. So this nation belongs to Him. And
To
by
him.
right, when He raises up governments, He doesn't raise up governments to be oppressive. He hasn't raised up governments to discriminate. He hasn't raised up governments to victimize others. He raised up a government because he believed that that government must execute fairness. That government must execute justice. That government must have peace upon God's earth. But what we're seeing here in Guyana is totally the opposite, Brother Hines. That is why it is time for us to turn to Jesus and repent of our sins and recommit this nation back to Jesus.
And I completely agree with you. And but God help those who help themselves. So we have got to play our role, all of us. And I always go to the human side of things because I think politics is not just about systems and structures and so on. It's also about the human element. And I remember I first came into close contact with you around the 2011 election. It's 12 years ago already. And I remember we all would frequent Congress Place. It was a strange place to me, and you understand why. And
Yes.
I know you and Sister Lordy Nestor, and I would come there and I would see you, and you were always vocal and always enthusiastic, and you would pull me aside and tell me about my passion and so on
Yes.
and thing. So I just want the audience to know that you're not a just come, that
Mm-hmm.
you actually were there in the trenches when power was not around the corner, and that you were doing your thing. And that pivotal 2011 campaign, the first APNU campaign, and that you were there. As you look back to that time, what lessons you would say that we should learn if a young person
I'm not
were to
hearing you,
ask
Dr. Hines. Mhm.
you're hearing me now? You're hearing me now?
I'm hearing you in and out. I heard
Yes, yes,
Yes, I heard
yeah.
you ask the question if a young person. Mhm.
If a young person were to ask you about that journey from 2011 coming forward to the present, what lessons have you learned in that journey? Because in that journey, there were the ups and downs. You were out of government, in government,
Oh
out of
yes.
government. What lessons would you say that you, Annette Ferguson, have learned that you could pass on to a young politician or a young political activist?
To be honest with you, Dr. Hines stood out for me. You must be able to share both the positives and the negatives. One is that for the negative, um, we were in opposition, and I believe at that time we were able to hold the then PPPC government accountable. We were very vocal being out there. We had protests calling on many actions that the government had failed to take. We were able to demonstrate that this is what needed to be done, and it was done. On the positive side, is that while in opposition, we advocated for local government elections, something that Guyanese never seen in 20 years. I've never voted in any local government elections until 2016 and 2018. And during all of this, we called on the then Ramattar government to set the date for local government elections, because that is something that they had promised Guyanese. But you know what? It didn't happen. So what they did is that the parliament was prorogued and we went to an early elections. While in politics, I have seen, the positive side and the negative sides of people, which I wouldn't want to really elaborate here. But as a politician, being in politics for over 10 years, any new person coming into politics, look, I will say to them, once you have a focus, once your mission is to help the ordinary people, you must have a passion for people. You must have a love for people. So once that is what you have, I believe you can make a positive contribution from, but also you would be able to make a positive impact on where Guyana in terms of its development should be. So politics, it's all about people. And for me, I have journeyed through thick, thin, high, low, but I'm still here. And I will continue once God give me the health, the strength, the energy, the breath to fight for what I believe in. So that is what I would want to say to any young person coming into politics. You must have a love for people, you must have a passion for development, and once those two blends in, I believe things will work out for you. Dr. Hines.
Yes, Sister Anna, thank you very much for that answer. And, as political people, we have to make decisions sometimes on the trot, sometimes based on just an hunch. Is there anything in your journey, especially when you were in office, is there anything you wish you had done differently? I'm not asking you to talk about mistakes. Is there anything, especially during the time when your party, your coalition held office, is there anything looking back that you would have done differently?
Dr. Hines, sorry, but this thing seems to be very, very bad. I I didn't get the question clear. Can you repeat? I don't know what is happening, if it's from your end or my end. I
Yeah,
just don't know what's happening.
yeah, yeah. I think there's some sticking on your end. Let me repeat the question. You hearing me now?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now.
Yeah, is there anything looking back, especially during the time you were in office, your coalition was in office, is there anything you wish you had done differently?
Dr. Hines, truth be told, look, the APNU AFC coalition government took office from a 23-year-old government. And there are a number of wrongs we met when we got into government. I believe we were on the right track, that is, to have a cohesive Guyana, to see Guyana go places. That is why, we would have done things totally different from the administration. I mean, what you're seeing now, Brother Hines, is that this regime has a lot of money to play around with, and that is the oil money. We hadn't the oil money. That is why they can have a whole number of infrastructure projects going on at one time. In our regime, what we did with the little resources we had, we were able to make things, to do infrastructure. We were able to pay improve the education sector, the health sector. So looking back, looking back to when we were in government to now, I believe it's like two extremes, Dr. Hines. Why am I saying this? Is that one, the coalition tried to follow the laws of the land. Whatever we did, we try to ensure that we comply with what the procedures, the systems, and the laws set out. What you're seeing now, Dr. Hines, is that this current regime is not following the laws. I can turn up, wake up today, sign, create some job, go and get it registered to be a contractor. And by tomorrow, I'm awarded a huge sum of dollars to execute contracts without any knowledge, without any experience. You would have seen monies being spent with no transparency. So when you look at the two governments, this particular PPPC regime is far way off from any good governance. I believe the coalition had a good plan in place. Yes, though our supporters have been beaten up on us that we haven't done anything, that is not so, Dr. Hines.
Right, right, right. And
We have done a
I get that. But Annette, you were in charge of a very important sector. You were partly in charge of a very important
Mhm,
sector, the housing sector. And what I'm asking
mhm.
you, not about the coalition, I'm asking about you as a
Oh,
political actor. Is
mhm,
there anything that you thought you know in looking back as Minister of Housing? Is there
mhm.
anything that you might have done differently if looking back?
Dr. Hines, with all faith, yes, I was reassigned to the Ministry of Housing on the 26th of April 2019, less than 1 year before the regional and general elections of March 2nd, 2020. When I got to the Ministry of Housing, I was able to allocate lands that were available at that time. We were able to process titles for lands. We were able to provide assistance to low income earners and so forth. So, I mean, looking back then to now, I believe if we were in government today, things might have been different in the Ministry of Housing. Yes, because our plan, the plans that we have had for the housing sector, was to ensure that every his or her head. That's one. Secondly, we would have ensure that the housing schemes that we were going to establish, that it was outfitted with all the necessary infrastructure, so that when people go in to construct, they will be able to not have difficulties building their homes. Our plan also, Dr. Hines, was to build houses for low income earners. You might have heard Comrade Leader Aubrey Norton speaking to the whole concept of rent to own. That was a plan that I would have inherited from my predecessor, Valerie Patterson. But because of the time span, Dr. Hines, I could not have effectively execute my mandate as the Minister of Housing of how we wanted it. Secondly, we hadn't the full resources to execute because it was an election year we were heading into. So certain things could not have been done the way I wanted it to be done. And mind you, Dr. Hines, we also had the no confidence motion that was tabled against us. That too had a negative impact on us. The things that we should have done, we could not because we could have only gone this far as a government because the court would have made it clear that you cannot operate as a normal government. So things had to, minimize a bit. But I believe that once we had returned after the March 2nd, 2020 elections, things would have been different,
Mm.
Brother Hines.
Yeah,
Because be- because if
let's
I'm if
go,
mhm.
go ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah, because as minister at housing, we were able to acquire lands and paid for these lands through the Guyana Lands and Survey Commission. So we had in excess of, I think it's 1,000 acres of land in the Amelis Ward phase 2 area. That is something that the PPPC is now running with. We would have paid over $20 million to Lands and Survey for the survey to be done. If we went back into government, Dr. Hines, we would have had the cadastral plan done, we would have had it parceled out, and persons would have gotten their lands. We also paid for lands in Letem through the Guyana Lands and Survey Commission. That too was a plan we had on stream. But as I said before, Dr. Hines, because of an elections and also the no confidence motion, it caused us to it limit.
Let's fast forward, Sister Ferguson.
Mhm.
You are a member of parliament now,
Yes.
but you're a member of parliament in a parliament that has been decotted by
Mhm.
the PPP, a parliament that has been rendered almost toothless by the PPP. The our system assumes that there would be space in the parliament for the opposition to express itself and to play some role in
Mhm.
overseeing the executive. All of that has been taken away. And the supporters of the opposition are very dismissive of the parliament. They are constantly being very critical of parliamentarians. And talk to us about what it means to be a parliamentarian in a parliament that really has no political space to make any positive contribution to the country.
Um, Dr. Hines, it is very challenging. This 12th Parliament of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, it's a very challenging one. Why am I saying this? Um, we as parliamentarians are there to represent our constituents and constituencies who have elected us to serve on their behalf. Dr. Hines, the parliament is there whereby we can carry the concerns of our constituents, whether through motions, through questions, through petitions. But what is happening thus far since September 2020, after the 12th Parliament was convened, is that this August body is not operating. And if I'm to parallel this with previous parliaments, because I served in the 11th Parliament and I also served in the 10th Parliament. And Dr. Hines, in the 11th Parliament, well, we were the government. And the speaker was not a politician, he was not a member of a political party. and I'm referring to Dr. Bartlett Scotland. And, Bartlett Scotland acted fairly and just whenever the People's Progressive Party Civic had their issues. He was he didn't show any biasness, or he wasn't one who, take a side, right? In the 10th parliament, we were in opposition, and the speaker then was brother, what's his name again?
Ralph Ramkoran.
Raphael.
Raphael
The
Trotman. Raphael
parliamentary
Trotman.
majority, yeah. Though we had the parliamentary majority, again, Mr. Trotman did not show any degree of biasness towards the then government. Everything went smoothly. Your questions went through, your motions went through, everything ran smoothly. What is happening now, Brother Hines? One, we don't have the parliamentary sectorial committees. They're not meeting the way they ought to meet. Secondly, we have issues with the Public Accounts Committee. The Public Accounts Committee is a committee that is expected to meet every Monday. Day before yesterday, that committee did not meet. Last week, that committee did not meet because the government moved a motion using their slim majority in the National Assembly to say they must have government ministers present there, right? So what you find happening now, Dr. Hines, in this 12th Parliament, questions put by us as members of Parliament, they're either amended, they're either rejected, motions put, they're either degutted, and all sorts of things. And when you bring these matters, these issues to the attention of the Speaker, he's not being fair at all to us. He is not being fair at all to us. But you know what, Brother Hines? I know it is a very difficult time in our nation and in the National Assembly. But as representatives in the opposition, we still have a mandate. We still have to deliver for our people. And in so doing, we would keep our constituents abreast as to Brother Hines, the National Communication Network, an organization that taxpayers pay for, don't carry our presentations. That unit don't carry questions or concerns we raise. So, it, as I said, it's very challenging, but we have our mandate to execute, and we remain committed to the cause, and we will continue to expose and to highlight the failures of this People's Progressive Party Civic. So, Dr. Hines, the 12th Parliament is indeed a challenging one for us in the opposition. Dr. Hines?
Okay,
Hello?
we got ourselves in a tangle there. I
Yes.
muted myself. Yeah. So, Annette, so if you are that challenged in the parliament,
Mm-hmm.
don't you think that the traditional role of the opposition parliamentarian should change from more than just expose, um, but to use the parliament in different ways? I'm just thinking aloud here. Should
Mm-hmm.
there not be,
Mm-hmm.
if you are blocked from playing your traditional role, rather than sit there and just go through the motions, Should the parliamentarian today not play a different role? Reflect on that.
Well, 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 Doc, you will agree with me if I don't know if you're aware, but about 2 years ago, you would have seen us stage a protest outside of the National Assembly. So that is one action we took. You would have seen in the National Assembly in 2021 with regard to the Natural Resource Fund bill, we also took actions in the assembly against the government because we felt that a bill of that importance did not get a full consultation where you get the private sector, you get interesting bodies to come on board and give their presentation or make their contributions, right? So for me, I believe yes, if you're to ask me if something, probably rigid should be done, I believe yes, taken extra parliamentary action against the People's Progressive Party, Civic. Um, as a parliamentarian, you would also recognize, Brother Hines, that we call on GCOM to clean the list, to clean the list. So we have been out on the ground, you know, advocating that the list be clean. We have been on the ground advocating for biometrics, and even in the National Assembly, we have been calling for these things to be done. But we have a government that is very stubborn, that has no shame, that is hard headed and everything. Even the rule of law, Dr. Hines, they thwarted, they twisted to suit themselves. But yes, I believe more should be done to hold this government accountable.
Accountable. Um, let's come to some current events. We have the what I call the national shame of a 15-year-old child being charged for 20 murders, well, 19, and we expect that she'll be charged for another one because another child died yesterday. Um, do you think that it is right to charge that child for murder?
No, Dr. Hines, I do not think that that young teenager should be held accountable and should be given that kind of charge against her name. Reason being, Dr. Hines, well, first of all, it's quite an unfortunate situation. And as a parent, I'm heartbroken and also saddened at this situation. But I believe the system might have failed this young lady. If it is a case that, well, look, indeed, she committed this act, as a social worker, Dr. Hines, there are certain behavioral traits you will pick up from an individual. And if the house mother or the teachers in the classroom would have seen this young lady acting kind of weird or off, it was their place to bring it to the attention of the authorities so that that young woman could have gone through some degree of counseling and see what intervention um, was needed that would have addressed whatever she was going through. Dr. Hines, I believe an independent commission of inquiry should should be held to determine what would have caused the fire. Right? So once you get an independent commission of inquiry I think, it might show us things differently. And to drag that young lady before the court, and I'm also hearing, and I've read, that the police, they're still conducting an investigation. So how can you bring one before the court so fastly without completing a thorough investigation? So you have all the evidence before the court, so that they can make whatever preliminaries they have to. So I believe, Dr. Hines, that that 15-year-old needs immediate intervention. Putting her, whether in the juvenile holding area, would not solve the problem. Even even though she was is that the magistrate should have asked for a it's called again one of these report, an evaluation report to be done on this young lady, like they would normally do. When murders are committed, they would normally ask for a welfare to do an investigation on the background of this person. So nothing of this nature was done on this 15-year-old. I don't know if in future, before her next court appearance, that will be done. But it's quite unfortunate, and I'm really, really saddened at what would have happened, Dr. Hines.
What would you say is the major issue? What is the major lesson we should learn from that Madia tragedy? The major lesson or the major lessons?
Mhm. Well, the major lessons we ought to learn, one, Dr. Hines, is that any building um, must have outfitted in it all the necessary things, whether exit, exit, exit out, whether the installation of fire features such as alarms, fire extinguisher, and thirdly, Dr. Hines, I believe there must be continuous inspection where these dormitories are concerned. Also, I mean, you cannot have in excess of 50 young ladies, all different ages, in one flat building, and you just have one adult to 50 young ladies. It's unacceptable. So for me, I think the government needs to work hand in hand with whether the community, and also you should have cooperations, because I can tell you this: when I was the minister of government at the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, we had a policy, Dr. Hines, that any any and every government building, whether dormitories, whether schools, whether for offices, the Ministry of Public Infrastructure must play an integral part. Have inspections done, ensure that, well, look, um, you have the necessary building codes are followed, and all manner of thing. Because what you're having now, Dr. Hines, and in most of these outlying areas, is that the government approves of money, buildings are being constructed, and the ministries that ought to play their role, whether fire, whether police, whether the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, whether local government, whether the region, apparently, they're not and where you have all these agencies involved whenever buildings are to be constructed. The other thing that I learned from this particular situation, Dr. Hines, is that the building was unsecured. There was no security presence. I believe that if a security was there, at least that person would have able to alert the community to get persons to come on board and provide the necessary assistance to have those children evacuate from that building. The other thing to Dr. Hines is that it has been reported that the fire department didn't wasn't fully equipped to really fight off that fire. So that is something the government really have to take a keen interest in. You cannot have the Ghana Fire Service presence in that community. And if you look across this nation, housing schemes are being constructed, and in not one of the housing schemes have provisions for the Guyana Fire Service. So in the event of a fire, you got whether in Providence, whether in Madia, you got fire service coming way from Georgetown to help extinguish that fire. So all of these things the government needs to look at and devise a comprehensive plan how they intend to address fire situation in this country to avoid what would have happened last Monday in Mario. Dr. Haynes?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
Mhm.
I'm
Yes.
here. And that we're moving towards local government elections. The court yesterday threw out one of the cases that was filed by the opposition in relation to the voters list. And I think that was expected since the court has made it very clear that it's not their business to clean up the voters list. There's another case as regards to boundaries that the Minister of Local Government had gerrymandered the boundaries. And then when it was pointed out that he did not have the power to do so, GCOM basically adopted the gerrymandered boundaries. And that case is before the court. But have to assume that we are going to elections. The PPP has said that it is mounting a strong challenge in areas that are considered to be the stronghold of the PNC slash APNU. And many people think that the PNC APNU is on the back foot. Is that so? As someone who I assume is on the ground campaigning, how does it look for the APNU PNC?
Dr. Hines, if I hear you clearly, because I don't, as I said before, I just don't know what is happening. A lot of interruption in the feed. But based on your question, you're asking me how it's looking on the ground for the APNU slash PNC. Look, Dr. Hines, I know for a fact that Guyanese are smart. Guyanese are smart. And to answer your question, how it's looking for us, I will say it's looking good for us. Despite the flags, whether red, black, and yellow, being flown across sections in the country, right? And um, that doesn't mean, Dr. Hines, that flags win. That's one. Our activists, the groups are very the groups are very busy on the ground. Even the candidates, the prospective candidates, they too are meeting, knocking on doors, and people are responding to us in a positive way. A classic example, I was in Denamstel on Monday, and I can tell you, every corner, every street, every home we visited, every man, woman, young boy, young girl we met along the way, they have given us positive feedback. They said that, well, look, their vote can't go anyway. It's one way, and their village is not for sale. On Sunday, we were in Kurukururu, and I can tell you the feedback is awesome. You understand me? The people are focused who with them local government elections. The people saw which government would have improved, whether the infrastructure had the drains cleared, had the streets done, had lights installed, had the playgrounds cleared, the community center done, and also the cemetery in those communities done. Here in Georgetown, we have 15 constituencies, and I can tell you, Dr. Hines, I have been working in constituency 13, that is East West Rumville, Ling Avenue, Towler Dam. And I can tell you the feedback that we have been receiving on the ground is a positive one. So despite, whether we have crossovers from us to the People's Progressive Party Civic, I don't believe that those crossovers can really have any positive impact on their constituency. Smart Guyanese know exactly who they will be voting for come June 12th, 2023.
And you mentioned the people who've crossed over, a few high profile people from the PNC slash APNU have defected to the PPP. And you were saying that this has had little effect on the people on the ground. But as a party member, why are you seeing these defections? I mean, you're not seeing people coming from the PPP over to the APNU. You're seeing the defection, a one-way defection. What's going on?
Well, Dr. Hines, I can only say perhaps, well, even before I say that, I believe can those persons themselves would be able to provide you with the response you're looking for as to the reason for their deflection. But what I and how the People's Progressive Party Civic is doling out this money in an unaccountable and a non-transparent way. I think that is what is catching the eyes of many people. Because I can tell you this, while in while in Denamstel on Monday, the people said that Irfan Ali was there over the weekend. One woman who taught him at whether nursery school or primary school, when she went to greet him and said to him who she be, she was given an envelope, a white envelope with 20,000 Guyana dollars in it. I was in East yesterday, Dr. Hines, and I can tell you, the person who was once the counselor for the APNU AFC, she's now with the People's Progressive Party Civic. And the people will tell you straight, she's knocking on doors. And the people know for a fact that the only thing that would have attracted these people to the People's Progressive Party Civic, one, is the money that they can get. Two, perhaps they were promised contracts and other things. And I can go this far, Dr. Hines. Sometimes confession is good for the soul. On my walk in a particular area, I wouldn't name the area, I met a school friend of mine. I was told that she's now with the People's Progressive Party Civic. And we engaged. And she said to me, Annette, I'm an opportunist. I am an opportunist. I will never vote for the People's Progressive Party Civic, but I got my needs. So, based on what she would have said to me, confirms what everybody know, why these people are running to the money now and they're splurging it, they're throwing it out at people, and that is what is catching people's eyes. And I can tell you, I can go so far, Dr. Hines. You know that the government has approved, or we approved in the National Assembly this whole cash grant of $40,000. They're giving each school child $40,000 for the new school term. Dr. Hines, you do your research. In 2021, in 2022, these monies were never paid in June month. These monies were paid on in the last week of the school year. And what is happening now, Dr. Hines, is that Priya Manikchan made an announcement earlier today that the government will be paying out the cash grants from June 5th, 2023. So they're throwing monies at people. So come June the 12th, they can get those persons to support them at the polls. But as I said before, Dr. Hines, Guyanese are smart and they will not sell themselves cheaply for a 40,000, 80,000, or 120,000 if they got three children, Dr. Hines.
Annette Ferguson, Member of Parliament, former minister, here with us tonight, answering some of our questions and giving us our insights on some of the issues of the day and the challenges that face the opposition side. She's optimistic that in the strongholds of the opposition that they would prevail at the local government election despite the PPP's tactics of trying to buy votes. Annette, I noticed that the police is now involved. They're charging APNU people for all kinds of trivial things. You all can't call people soup drinkers anymore. You can't pull down a PPP poster. The police is getting involved. What's going on? Talk to us. You heard me, Annette?
Yeah, Doc, I lost you there. You mind repeating the question?
Yes, I was saying I noticed the police is getting involved in the campaign, charging APNU people with trivial things like, calling people soup drinkers or house
Mm-hmm.
slaves. The police is intervening. You can't pull down a PPP poster.
Y-
Well, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Dr. Hines, it is clear as day that the People's Progressive Party Civic has full control, full domination, whether in the Ghana Police Force, in the Ghana Defense Force, in other institutions, because by the these entities, you will see how they operate. Yes, I have recognized that over the past few weeks, um, persons from the party which I belong to, they have been dragged before the courts for frivolous matters. Perhaps one might have said to one, you're a soup drinker. That has now become a charge against whomever might have said that. If you said, if you're pulling down flags now, you notice people are now placed on $20,000 bail. So the police, they are taking they are taking instructions from the politicians, and this ought not to be. No way in our laws, electoral laws, speak about whether you're pulling down a party paraphernalia, you will be charged at X amount of money or placed laws speak to the issue. If you, David Hines, call me, Annette Ferguson, a soup drinker because I am now with X political party, no, where in the laws speak to these matters? So it clearly showed that the People's Progressive Party, they're running scared. So in order to scare people off, they're using this tactics that once you say X about Y, or once you do so, this is what is going to come your way. But Brother Hines, I know that my people, my colleagues, they're standing tall despite all that comes their way, because we have an elections to win. We have our strongholds to to maintain. So we will not allow a charge of a 20,000 bill lock up to daunt us. We will not allow whatever the People's Progressive Party surrogates put out there against us to daunt us, because our focus is to win at the local government polls come June 12th, 2023.
Our focus is to win at the local government poll. Former Minister Annette Ferguson, Member of Parliament, member of the People's National Congress, APN, it's been so wonderful chatting with you. I know we've been threatening to do this for such a long time, but you know, we on this program, we go where the Spirit leads us. We are a
Amen.
spiritual people, and we entertain the ancestral spirits around there. Thank you very much. Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say to the viewers and listeners tonight?
Well, before I do that, Dr. Hines, I want to thank you very much for having me on your program. I know we were in and out of this evening, but I guess we were able to get some of our points over clear to our people. I want to say to my Guyanese brothers and sisters, whether home here or abroad, that June 2nd, that's day after tomorrow, the discipline services will be heading to the polls. And I want to encourage them to vote right. And the only right way is to vote APNU on that ballot. So you have to do it upstairs and downstairs. Come June the 12th, 2023, despite the People's Progressive Party tagline, making Georgetown um, making Georgetown new again, something to that effect is their tagline. Look, we had 23 years of this regime prior to May 2015, and we would have seen what Georgetown after 2020, look where Georgetown is again. It has now become a garbage city. So my simple plea to you home here in Guyana to vote solidly for a partnership for national unity. It is this body that brought back local government elections in 2016 and 2018, when the People's Progressive Party Civic would have deprived us from heading to the local government polls to have us vote for those who can and manage our constituencies, rather than giving us elect or allowing us to elect our people. They gave us IMCs, 38 IMCs in 6 years. Same to you. June the 12th, don't make that mistake. Don't make that mistake to vote PPPC. I am saying to you, vote APNU, because we have a plan to ensure that Georgetown, Georgetown becomes the garden city and not the garbage city. My last call to you: do not surrender your ID cards. Do not allow them to say to you when you get into the polling station there and you cast your ballot, you must take out your photo showing that you voted for PPPC. That is a crime by itself. So I'm saying to you, your vote is important. So do not waste it. Do not sell your vote cheaply. all the airs. You're hearing me through this social media platform. I'm saying to you, turn out in your numbers and vote solidly. Do not remain at home. Do not stay at home. With those few words, Dr. Hines, I thank you once again for allowing me the opportunity to appear on this platform, Politics 101, to share with you and your listeners and viewers. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless our beautiful nation, Guyana.
And thank you very much, my sister. Thank you very much for coming on and spending time with us and speaking with our viewers here and those who will check the podcast later on in the evening or tomorrow. Thank you very much. And to thank you, our audience, for staying with us again. Without you, there is no program. And we welcome Sister Annette here tonight. She expressed herself, and as usual, we on this program are very welcoming of all viewpoints, whether they are in sync with our view or not. That is the kind of healthy diversity that we encourage on this program. Tomorrow night, Paul Slow is going to be here. So come back in your numbers. As usual, you come in peace, you leave in peace, and you leave with lots of love. Without love, life is lifeless. Good night, and remember, as always, our motto here is the dignity of the human being is paramount.